Hello everybody, I'm Ioana from Shining Mama. I'm an artist and a mom, and I'm a green smoothie aficionado. I really love to take care of my body, and I encourage women to do that too. And this is actually my passion, to help women to take care of themselves. And I'm here with Carmen Lund. She's a creation catalyst and a wonderful mom, and also an artist. And we met each other through the 30 days video challenge of Marisa Murgatroyd, and I love her. I love Carmen. I love you. Because I looked on your website and I saw that we actually have a lot of things in common, and I'm proud to say that you wanted to talk to me. So I wanted to ask you more about how you started, how you became an artist, and what brought you to this point right now. Because I see that you're also doing a lot of spiritual work and coaching and creation workshops. So why would you want to start?
Well, Ewan, it's an interesting question because I think we all have a very long journey. And we begin at one point and often take a lot of things with us to get to the next point. And what happened to me was I was living in Brazil. And I don't know if you know this, but in Brazil, you have a very easy lifestyle. The women just go have coffee all day, etc. And I did that for a while, but I got really bored. And I had an opportunity to start painting. So I did. And I was invited to be in a big biennial show. And the reason I know why I was invited was because I was so inexpensive and they had very expensive artists. But lo and behold, my painting sold out. And I was like, wow, I think I could be an artist.
Wow.
And so I was very, very surprised. I was surprised that people liked my work. And it's funny because I look back now and all my paintings were in the middle of the page because I thought artists were so sloppy. And so I think people bought my paintings for target practice or something. But anyway.
No, I don't believe that. May I ask you how old you were?
I am 67.
No, how old you were then?
Then. You better cut that part out. No, I don't care. I always think your age is a badge of courage. I was about 28 years old.
Wow.
And I had not painted. I didn't start painting on the potty. I, got into this, as I say, in Brazil. And I did a lot of painting then. And I got divorced. And I had a 3.5-year-old child, came up to the United States, was living in New York. And it never occurred to me that I couldn't sell my paintings in New York because, whatever, I'd had 2 years of experience. And so now that I think about it, those things you look back and think when you were young, I think, oh my God, I mean, how in the world did I have the nerve? So I thought, well, maybe I better go apply for a regular job, which I did first. And the woman said to me, what do you do? And I said, well, I was a painter, but I'm going to get a job now. And she said, can I see your paintings? And I showed her my paintings, brought them into her, and she said, I'm not going to help you get a job. So she said, I think you should paint.
Wow.
So I was like, wow is right. So I went home and, being an artist yourself, Ioana, you probably know this. It's a funny thing that I was a single mom too at the time. My daughter was 3.5. And I would go into my studio the minute she left for school. And then I'd come back and I would paint for a couple hours in between crying for a couple of hours because I was like, what in the world? How did I think I was going to do this with 2 years experience? So anyway, the long and the short was I finally got into a gallery in New York because I had so much. There's a word in Portuguese that's called jeito, and it means if you can't do something, you find a way to get around it. So I walked into the gallery in New York on Madison Avenue and said, you need to see my paintings. The guy said, what, are you kidding me? Are you kidding? He said, do you know how many people come in here? I said, I don't know how many people come, but you better look at my paintings because they're really good. So I got into the gallery. That was my first thing. And then I thought,
are you sure that he didn't say that because you were so pretty?
No, no, because they put my painting in the window in the gallery in Madison Avenue.
Ooh.
And so I thought, well, gee, maybe I could do better at this. And as you know, being a single mom, it's not easy. So I thought, let me see. This is great. It's really an honor to be in a gallery, but it doesn't make a lot of money. There are a lot of different artists. And so I decided to start doing studio shows. I say studio loosely because I had an apartment with no furniture in it. I had no furniture.
It
So
was a
I hung,
studio.
I, so I, so I hung up, what do you call it? You know, those lights that show for paintings. And I invited all my friends and said, who do you know who has money, who likes art? And here I am. I've been painting for 2.5 years by this point. I
I
take my
think I'm
walls,
going to do that.
huh?
I think I'm going to do that.
Well, they do it now in the States a lot, but nobody was doing it then at that time. It's a great thing to do. It
You
really,
gave
it's
you
great
gave them
because
an idea.
you sell immediately. You sell immediately. So what happened was I got a bartender. I put up the lights. I had no furniture anyway, so I sent an invitation from the studio of Carmen Lund, and I sold 25 paintings the first night.
Wow.
So I thought, well, this is much better than being in a gallery. I don't care about a reputation. I care about making some money so I could be home with my child.
True, yeah.
And so for 25 years, that's what I did. I went from place to place. A friend was selling a house. I would go to her house, and then they would, put my paintings up, and I would sell a lot. And in between, people would come to me. Because when you have a show, they see so many things that they're not really thinking. And then they say, can I come to your studio? And so I made a good amount of money at that time. Unfortunately, the economy isn't very good now. So what happened was when I was in the States, I realized that having gotten a divorce, that I probably should finish my college degree, which I never did. I was 45 years old. I went back to college. It took me 3 years, driving an hour each way and going for 3 hours, leaving my kids with a babysitter. And so I got that. And then I thought, oh, maybe I should do something else. I started teaching. And I loved teaching. From the moment I walked in, I loved teaching.
This was
And
after college and
after college, and I was painting all the time. But I wanted to. I had to make some money. I needed. Actually, I hate to say this. This was my second divorce. I now know to have only one child. I have three children.
okay. So I was going to say because you said that I had one child and then you had children, so I was going to ask about
Yeah,
it. Yeah.
that's exactly right, Iwana. So I'm like, oh my goodness, now I really have to, I can't rely on painting because as you know, painting, you sell a painting or three paintings 1 month, maybe you don't sell any for 6 months. And I thought, you know what? I bet my kids are going to want to eat Cheerios every morning, not just when I sell a painting. So, and I can again be home with them. So this seemed like the perfect career. So I started teaching. I was invited to teach at a really good school for adults. And to tell you the honest truth, I never would have applied to teach there. I would have thought I wasn't good enough. But they came after me. They had seen one of my exhibits and they came after me. So that was perfect. But what really, really was a big surprise for me was even more than painting, I love teaching. I love working with people. I mean, painting sometimes I don't have a great concentration, so I'm always thinking, oh, I wonder what that person's doing over there or whatever. And I can't like totally focus. So, but when I'm teaching, I am in the moment. And I really, really love that. And I love opening possibilities for people. And it's interesting in your own work, I don't know with what you've done, Iwana, but I think for me, what I've realized there's such a connection between creating on paper and creating in your life. And so many people have no confidence in their ability to be an artist because they were told by their parents, your sister is really creative. You're a little bit athletic, you better stay over there. Or you're smart, you better do chemistry. And so I'm like,
That
no.
or
What?
maybe you got some other stuff like don't be an artist because you're
Right,
starving.
right, right.
Don't
That's
be an
right.
artist because I've been an artist and it wasn't good. Or there are a lot of things.
Exactly. And so for me, what I found is if I can get people to take some risks on paper and to try, I don't want them to be, Renoir or anything. I'm really excited about having them be who they are, to express who they are, because, it's funny, I say a lot of times that to my students, they're like, well, my paintings aren't good enough. I said, you know what? Do you think that the cavemen were trying to get into a gallery? No, they saw an antelope run by and they wanted to show everybody what they saw. And we've gotten this thing about it has to be right, it has to be good. When it is so right, it has no soul. It has no essence. So I discourage that. I go right for their personal
Right
vision.
for whom?
Right for,
Right for
yeah,
whom?
well, all the people that tell you can't and this is good and
Yeah,
this
well,
isn't good.
yeah.
So anyway, then I was teaching and I love that, but what I found was people came all the time and said to me while in my class, Carmen, can I talk to you a minute in the hall? So I was like, sure, what do you want? So we're out there and they've got a problem with their marriage, or they've got a problem with making money, or they've got a problem with their teenage kids. So I thought to myself, you know what? I'd like to go back to school because there was a program being offered, a 2-year program on spiritual guidance. And I thought, I have a big responsibility to these people. If they're going to trust me with not only their art and their self-expression, but their lives, I want to know better how to be able to direct them. So I took a 2-year program and was certified with that. And that was great. And then the economy took a crash. So I thought, I'm not going to take my paintings around and lug them around just so I can say I showed them. I've shown them plenty of times in my life. I've shown them actually internationally. And so, that isn't important to me. So I went back and got a master's in fine arts because I had the time. And then I decided, you know what? I think I'm going to take up coaching. And I hate the word coaching because coaching to me, and it proved to be this when I took the classes. I took a university class for it. It wasn't one of these little things that was low. It was in a master's program, and I have master's credits for it. And what I found was they taught you how to ask questions. Well, that's great. But I have a lot of experience that I want to bring to people to help them. So if I ask you a question, have you read anything good on, I don't know, modern art? And you say, well, no. And then I say, oh, what are you going to do about that? Well, instead if I say to you, well, here are 5 books, maybe you want to consider some of them. I'm giving you something. To me, so that's why I use the name a creativity catalyst, because I want to be a mentor that is having back and forth collaborating with the people I work with.
Yeah, I
So
really
that's
love
a
that
very
word.
long answer.
Yeah, I really love that word catalyst because it's not only that you teach people something, because people don't learn because you teach them something, they learn because they learn. And you catalyze this learning, so that's a great way.
Well, it's also interesting. What I realized was creative catalyst, because so many of us didn't have the mothering we needed along the way. And what I realized is that in my position, I'm almost mothering their creativity. I'm holding their hand and saying, guess what? It's okay. You can do this. And so there's the catalyst part. It's not so much about teaching. Very little teaching do I do. It's more cheerleading. I'm a big cheerleader. That is great. You did such a great job. And by
Do
the
you do
time
also the pom-pom thing? Yeah, I've seen a lot of pictures of your workshops. That's amazing. I mean, so many ages and also so many different kind of people.
Well, it was interesting, Iwana. I taught regular painting, but it's from the side of creativity, because my class is called Personal Visions, because I feel that it's not about. Sometimes the student says, I've seen your work and I want to paint just like you. I said, oh my God, you're like making the hair stand up on my arms. They're like, why? I said, because have your own life. Like express your life. You're not going to express my life. So I want to see your vision. So that's what I did. But then I realized that so many people are afraid. They're really afraid, and they couldn't even come to a personal vision class. So I designed a workshop called the Big Brush Workshop. And actually, I have a video on YouTube about it, because I wanted to create a safe environment for people to take risks. And so I literally blindfold them in the beginning. I've got music in the
Wow.
background. And I made, you know how people say, oh, this paint is too expensive, I can't use it, don't make me use this. So I have kids' kindergarten paint, I have craft paper, and that has been a huge success. I teach that. Did it originally for adults, but then I thought, and you have a young child, an adorable young child I've seen,
Thank you.
and what I realized is that so many times a parent is in the position of saying, "Don't do that. We're going to do this now. You know, you must go to bed now. You have to, whatever." You're directing a child all the time out of love, but you're directing them. So I thought, a kid must feel powerless sometimes. And how much fun would it be to put them in a workshop with their mother when the mother's looking at the work all the time, trying to figure out how did that child do that? Because the child is still in that wonderful stage of wonder and expression that many of us have lost along the way. And
Yes,
so
yes.
it's been fun. And I put the parents together to collaborate with the child. And the result is fabulous. It was really cute. I had a young girl. She was with her father. And usually you get the mothers coming. But this young girl came with the father. And I said to him, I said, well, this is very interesting. I said, I don't get that many fathers. And he said, well, I go to my son's soccer game, and my daughter said, Dad, will you go do some art things? She was only 4. Will you do some art things with me? And he said, this is one of the classes. And it was so adorable. And I thought, so many times parents miss out on that, not only the creativity part, but the chance to share something really worthwhile with their kids.
Yeah, this is amazing because this is something like that I miss in the environment where we live now. There are not so many things that you can do with your child. Even yoga with your child is not so often found. So it's really interesting. This is also
Maybe
something that
that's a beginning for you, Iwana.
yes, this is also something I plan to do in the
Yes,
future.
because
Yes.
I think that's very smart because I know, of course, my children have passed that age, but I know when they were younger, it was hard to find things that you could do as a woman to get out there and yet still include your
Exactly.
child.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, because when I was, and even as pregnant and single, or single mother of a young child, or these kind of things, they just don't exist almost.
Hmm.
So it's really, yeah, that's very interesting.
It's up to the women.
Yes, it's true.
I
So
always tell my sons, I said, you better watch out. I have a 27-year-old and a 32-year-old, and I said, you better watch out because the women are going to rule the world and they're closing up on you. So you guys better get down with the program.
yes, so what did you start actually in the beginning? What did you start teaching? Did you start teaching to paint, or did you
Painting.
start
Start
teaching
teaching as a
creativity?
yeah, painting and creative. My teaching has always been from the viewpoint of creativity, Iwana, because I just feel that everybody has so much to talk about. It's funny. This is a funny story that I had a man in my class one time, and he said to me, he said, "Can I talk to you?" And I said, "Yes." And he took me out in the hall, and he said, "I want to show you my work." And he was he is probably in his 50s, and it's interesting because I get very few men. And I thought, how come all the galleries are filled with male artists, and I've got all the women who are learning how to paint? Something is wrong with this picture. So anyway, the guy's showing me these paintings and his little notebook, and we're seeing the flags and the little walls and everything. And all of a sudden, he flips over to a naked woman, like sitting on a bed. So I said, you know how you say to your children when you don't know what to say? Well, tell me about that. So he said, I did it from memory. And it was a woman straddling. So one leg was on one side of the single bed, and one leg was on the other, which, as you can imagine, is not a very interesting position. So later on, I said to him, and I couldn't resist, I said, excuse me, Joan, but I found that when people are with naked bodies together, they hardly ever pay attention to details. And I suggest that if you want to paint a naked woman, you got an artist instead of some woman you're involved. He was getting redder and redder, and I was having so much fun.
And you also shouldn't be naked while painting.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So,
it's really interesting because I also get very seldom male clients, but I'm my direction is on women totally. So I'm surprised when I get male clients, and it's really funny because my first two clients about creativity and also about self-care were male and they were
yeah,
very interesting and very
good.
very yeah, very active.
But Iwana, let me ask you this. Are those enlightened males? Because I find the people who want to improve themselves are normally women. Men go from A to Z. Women have to do so many things and they are always trying to grow.
Well, I was wondering about that. Maybe they fancied me.
Ah,
No, I don't know. One of them was an architect and the other one is a musician. So he's an architect.
sensitive.
Yeah, so they are both creative, and maybe that was because maybe that was what attracted them to me because I'm also creative and I put everything out there. So, what are you doing now? Because I see that you're doing something a little bit different than what you are.
Well, Iwana, one of the interesting things that I found is that so many times my students come to me and they say, I used to be a potter, or I used to be a photographer, or I used to, I was a cook, but now I want to learn how to paint. And one of my feelings, which is what I've done, it's a long way to answer your question, but one of the things that I've done is that I always say to them, first of all, when I have a new student, I want to talk to them about themselves because I can't help them to go forward unless I know where they've been.
True.
And so the best thing that I say to them, I think, is you're not going to stop being a photographer or a potter. You're going to bring that into your painting and we're going to find ways to use that. People forget that. And I think it's so for me, for myself, I've taken my art, went into my teaching. My art and my teaching went into my, spiritual guidance. Then it went into coaching. And that's really what I'm doing a lot of now, besides my big brush workshop. I'm doing creative catalysts with women, trying to get them from, I think there's a big emphasis today on make six-figure income and do this. I'm like, is anybody happy around here?
Yeah.
Is anybody living a full life? And so what I'm trying to do with women is to help them identify their strengths, their gifts, their talents, and their experiences and put them all in a package to decide what that next thing is.
Yes, yes, yes.
And so quite honestly, I even found I've taken classes from people on business, but I'm like, hello, does anyone want to tell me anything else? And I think that's a big, big thing missing because to me, unless your soul is connected, I think creativity is connecting you with your soul. And I think whatever I want to do in my life, I want it to be wholehearted. I want to bring everything of me into that next thing. And so that's what I'm doing. I'm working with women to try, especially women who want to start something. Maybe their kids are getting a little older or they're an empty nester and they want to go into a new thing. So I'm trying to teach them, how do you take your abilities and your strengths and your gifts and package them in a way that fulfills you and gives something back to the world?
Wow. There are so many things there that I want to that I
Uh,
want to grab and comment on. And one of them is, I mean, we have so many things in common. It's amazing. I one of the things is
except for our age.
sorry.
Except for our age.
I think we are young at heart, both of us.
No, no, no. We're young. I'm very young at heart, and I'm very, with it. But I'm not chronologically. We have a big difference in our age. Actually,
I
Lana, do you
think the
know
only
what?
difference is the color of our hair, but for the
No,
rest.
my hair's been like that forever. But you know what? You're only about 5 years older than my daughter.
Okay.
Think
But
about that.
I was thinking I'm older than you were when you moved to New York, but I'm actually in the same position because my son is 4, and I'm a single mom, and I'm launching my business right now. So it's
Well, you
interesting.
know, that's exciting, Iwana, because I actually had my last child when I was 40. So I was exactly your age. And I think that, you know, one of the things that I thought was so special about that time, and I'm sure you're finding that, is when you're younger, you're so busy with trying to get ahead and doing what everybody else tells you to do. And all of a sudden, what a gift to get a child at that age, when
Yeah,
you're that age, and be able to, you know, just enjoy him.
enjoy. Yes, yes. I'm sure I would have not been such a good mother when I was younger. I'm
Mhm.
sure that it was for me, even with my all my transformational work, and I was an architect, and then I started doing other things like emotional body work and shamanic work and all kind of this, also a spiritual direction like you took. And and when I was 13, that was the age when I was ready to be a mother, and then that's when I became pregnant, and I had a child. But I mean, before that,
That's
I
when
was,
you put your order in.
yeah, and I'm really very happy that I was this age, because until now I wasn't ready. So, and I also made efforts to be ready. That's true, because I worked all the, I'm not going to say the word, I worked all the stuff that was that was
The
coming up.
baggage we all bring with us.
Yeah, and it's also interesting because I'm in the same phase where I'm gathering all my gifts and give them one direction, and just put everything that I did until now, I'm putting it into the work now I'm doing now.
Iwana, let me ask you a question about that. You're saying that when you're putting it all together, do you have a clear vision yet, or have you have someone helping you to try to put those together? Because that's not an easy thing. Because from what I've heard about you, you're into a lot of different areas. And so how do you bring those things together?
I am kind of doing it where as I go at the moment. First, I heard about it from, I must admit, I heard about it from someone who said, Christina Morasis. She said, I invite people to put all their gifts in one package and just be the whole that they are. And at that point, I was just trying to do like something like, it was like 5% of me, and I was like, oh yes, yes, this is what I want to do. And I followed that little thread, and I think um, it was something that I heard from her, but it was something that I was ready for.
Mhm.
And then I realized I have so many talents, but until now I was like directing myself only
Try to
on
put them in a
one.
box.
Yeah, trying to put myself in a corner, because this is how people see
Mhm, mhm.
things. Like, don't be this much, don't be this big, don't be something that you cannot contain, don't be predictable, be
Responsible.
yes, be responsible, um, be known for one thing. And
Mhm.
I think that is such a pity, because if we go through life and we do different things, and I did thousands of things, I don't know. I started with architecture, but while I was an architect, I was also working in different other things. I did design for movies. I did acting. I did singing.
Oh,
I did I don't
wow.
know. If I make a list, we are here until tomorrow. But it was always like I would do something, and then I would start it. I would experiment with it, because I'm an experimenter at heart.
Mhm.
I
You're a
would
risk
experiment.
taker.
Yes, also, but I like to experiment with materials, and if something calls to my soul, then I go for it, and
Mhm,
then I learn it, and then I know it, and
mhm.
until now it was something like, okay, if I know something, I go further and I look for the next experimenting thing and next exciting new something. But right now it feels it's time to just take everything and just put it
Put
in
it in a
one.
bucket.
Yes, put it in one direction and just coach people with that.
I want to ask you something. Can I ask you a question?
Of course, yes, yes.
Okay.
I asked you so many.
Well, I know, but okay. So here is the question. Two. And I'm going to tell you right now because I'll forget my questions. One is, especially you said 18 years in architecture. I'm wondering how much that informs what you're doing, how much that influences your things. And the second thing, before I forget, and you can answer them because you'll remember,
I will know
is I love your necklace.
Oh, thank you.
So those are the two questions. So I want to know about those two things.
The first one, yes, it informs my way of coaching people because architecture is a process. When you are starting a project, first of all, you assess where you are, you measure the house, you see if the structure is okay,
right,
or not, if the foundation needs work, and maybe new colors. So it's also an exchange with the client. You ask the client how do they want to see their house, and I have a special. I had when I was an architect, I used this. I don't know how it's called, but you ask somebody to choose images and just make a whole like a vision board for the project.
How they live, sort of how their
they live,
lifestyle.
what they like, and I would ask them to just pick images from different places, like not only different images from architecture that they would like, but also like different details, and to give me an idea about how they are. And this is the same actually what I do in my coaching. I also ask my clients to just pick images for themselves and just make a special beginning vision board. And then we assess where they are. So depending on the subject, because I coach in Greece Mutis, but also in motherhood at the moment, and
it all comes up, doesn't it?
Yes.
I found with clients that they think they're going to do one thing, but really it's a clearing out of just like you're saying, that foundation of a lot of things. It is, oh, whoops, I wanted a job, but I did want to tell you something about this son of mine who's giving me a problem or whatever.
Yeah.
It's that trust thing, I think, that builds up.
Yes, and also it's the first phase. I think it's an assessment of do they want to change or not? Because if they think I want to change the outside of my house, I wanted to make a palace, and inside there's still junk small or dirty or very dark. That's not something that works together. So in that way, it's a parallel with the project, because after that you make, after the assessment, you make like a little sketch of how you would like things to change and where could they go, and also assess everything that was until then and see where you have to work. So that's in that way.
Love that. I love that, Ioana, because that is really a perfect example of how we take what we've had. It's not like, okay, I was an architect, now I'm going to be a coach. It's a coach who has something extra to offer because they've had that experience.
It's
and
true, yeah.
I think that's really important, because that's what I found in coaching school. I'm like, oh my gosh, these people have nothing to say unless you tell them, how to ask a question, and then they don't have anything to tell the client, from their experience. So I love that you're talking about. That's great.
Yeah, I also love something that you said, that you help people take their soul into what they create, because my true belief is that we come here to be the biggest potential that we can be, and that we plan before the birth. This is a kind of controversial something.
I don't think that's controversial.
Well,
Or maybe we're
many-
talking in the right. We're in the right conversation.
I'm talking to the choir, but maybe for many people that's controversial. But yeah, so I believe that we choose the directions that we want to take in life. So I choose that I want to be an architect, and then I choose to be a coach, and I choose to incorporate everything that I did until now into my life, and also into my coaching, and also into helping my clients. Because you asked about my necklace and my earrings.
Wow.
I make them, and this is something that I also discovered because I'm an experimenter, and I also invite people to experiment with materials, with new thoughts, new directions, and what if you do it like this? And
what happens if? I love that question.
Yeah, what happens if you take this direction? What happens if you take that direction? And just feel which one is for you. And this is something that I just discovered. I went to this, how do you call that? I'm addicted to notebooks and to pens and and to stationery. And I went into this shop, and there was this little package with this kind of polymer clay. This is polymer clay. And I saw it, and I was like, ooh, I want to touch that. I want to play with that.
The little girl in you wanted to play.
Yes, and there were different colors, and I was thinking, oh, I can make these forms. And the first thing I did, I made a present for somebody who was I was living already in Holland, and she was going to Thailand, where she lives. And we were together for a month, and we helped each other in many ways. And she was leaving, so I made for her this present, and then I thought, oh, I want to do more. So that was the beginning of this. But already
How long ago was that?
Let me think. I think it was
A couple of
7
years?
or 8 years ago. 7
Oh,
or 8
wow.
years ago.
Now I won't feel bad if my first necklace doesn't look like that.
No, mine was, yeah. So I experimented with that also, and it's a passion. It's a really a passion.
Do you know what? I wanted to say one thing about what you said about the soul, because over the years, what I've realized is it isn't how we express something or what we do. It's that we all hunger to be able to bring out our voice. And I think that is our connection to our soul. I think our soul is about who we really are, not who our parents said we were, who society told we were. It's like, it was funny because I was raised in a strict Catholic family. And I hate to tell you how long it took me, about your age, when I thought, you know what? If I don't follow that rule exactly, doesn't make me a mass murderer. It makes me that I've decided to do something a different way. And so one of the nice things is because, I find people so happy in art class and I think what they're happy about is they're happy about they're finally being able to express who they want. And
Yes.
It takes often a long, long time.
Yes, I've had people crying because I said, you have permission, and they were 50 years old or 40 years old. I said, you have permission to be everything you are. And I love your line, like color outside the lines. I said, you have permission to just make a mess, just paint with your fingers and with your toes and with your butt if you want. Just do something. I don't care. I mean, you are here to just make a mess. If you want to paint on the walls, because we were in this place where it was possible, just paint on the floor. I don't mind. And they were like, oh, but I have to, really very tiny lines. I said, just take a big brush and just do like that.
That's what my workshop is. It's a 2-inch brush because I don't want them to be so particular. But
Yeah.
it's funny, just like you're saying, I use music in my classes because I want them to get out of their heads, to stop thinking if they're doing right and kind of just get into the motion. Actually, I use reggae music, so they're like in the island. If I could serve a pina colada, that would be great. So,
Well,
and
I'm coming to make green smoothies for your workshop.
good, good. But I think that it's interesting to see how it is so hard for people to let go. And like you're saying, I have people in their 60s and 70s. My last class, the median age was 82,
Ooh.
which I really, really love that because I thought, to me, people who keep growing, and I think, you can say now you help people with a new career or a transition. Hopefully, in 20 years, it's going to be another thing they're doing because I think that's the secret. And I loved working with these people because I thought, it's not easy for them to carry all their art supplies, to have the courage to show up, and yet they were still learning. I heard that one of them was 92 years old. I'm like, are you kidding me?
Wow.
Yeah. And they were in my class for 20 years. And I think the reason they stay in my class is I'm not telling them what to do. I'm there when they're trying to grow.
Yeah.
And so if there's something new they're trying, just like you were saying, I want to say, yeah, let's see what happens when you do that.
Yeah, it's interesting because you said that you mother them, and I'm sure that that's the process. And I find that I'm also mothering my clients, but they also have like this. Sometimes they have this thing about having a younger mother than themselves.
Oh, well, they don't have that with me.
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
the right age. I'm the right age.
Well, the 92 one, I don't think so. But do you also find, because I find in my work that it's also a visibility issue.
For the people coming in, you mean?
Yes, that first of all, that they want to make their work pretty,
Mm-hmm.
and they want to hang it on the wall. And I'm always saying, you first have to take the garbage out.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't take the garbage out, the garbage is inside and it's going to stay there forever, and it's going to stink at one point. Sorry.
Well,
So,
when you say that, Iwana, one of the big things, and I think it's our society, whether it's in painting or anything else, it's very much about product. Let's buy this, we need this, whatever. Nobody is interested in process. Everything is instant gratification. And so it's funny because in my teaching, I'm not teaching product, I'm teaching process. The teachers who are teaching product, their classes are much more filled because people are afraid to try to see what happens if.
yes, true.
And so I think what is interesting is once they get able to accept the fact that it is a process, then they get tied up with, let me see, what else could I do, as opposed to, this is how I'm supposed to do this, and take it home to their husband, go, look what I did in class today. They're coming home with nothing. It might be 6 months, and it might be 6 months before they get something down on the paper, but they've learned a lot and they've grown a lot. So
Yes, and that the thing that is coming out in 6 months was not visible until under all that crap when they started. Yeah,
right.
this is exactly what I find, and it's also interesting to me because um, I see people teaching intuitive painting. Like I do intuitive painting for myself, and I also teach that. You can't teach intuitive painting, but I'm encouraging.
You're incorporating it into
I'm
your program.
encouraging it, yes, and because creativity, I think it can be in everything. I mean, you
Right, I
can
agree.
create big, beautiful cakes, or you can put the fruit somehow in a bowl. That I think that creativity is actually in everything that we do.
I
So
agree.
I want to ask you about that too. But first, I wanted to say that I see people teaching intuitive painting, and then they ask their students to make something out of the painting they are doing, and it has to be a form, and it has to come out pretty, and just hang it on the wall. And
goodbye intuition.
yes, exactly. Where is the intuition? Yeah. So I wanted to ask you about that. How do you see actually creativity? Because for me, creativity is like not only what we do on paper, not only art, not only necklaces, but also what we do with our lives. So I think it's intrinsically.
There's a big connection. And I think, Iwan, I'm looking at you right now, and I'm thinking, why does she have a red piece of fabric on the back? Why didn't she have a blue piece of fabric? Because that was part of your creation. Why did you wear that necklace today as opposed to another one? And so you're exactly right. I think being a human being is creative. There's no other animal that has that. Creativity is in our DNA. It's somebody who gave this idea that it's something special. It's not special.
No.
But you know what's interesting, I think, is that so many people are afraid to show anything that's outside the lines. And so because of that, they think they're not creative because they never used it. Well, anything you've never used, you can't do well. You can't play golf if you go out one day and play golf. You can't play the violin after 2 lessons. And I think the same thing with creativity. We develop a creative muscle the more we do it, and then it leaps off the paper or the dance floor or the song and informs our lives, giving us confidence to take risks that are bigger, I think. Parenting is very creative, really creative. Marriage is creative.
Yeah, if you're not creating creative as a parent, you have a big problem there.
Right.
Yeah, there was something that you said. I find that with my students, with my clients, when we are working at something, at a painting or at whatever creations thing, there are a lot of things from their childhood that are coming up, and I believe that not being creative, it's a label that we got from different people, like either the parents, either even if they did everything they could.
Teachers.
Sorry?
Teachers at school.
Yeah, teachers at school, and just exactly like you said. Maybe you are better at sports, and then. Mm-hmm. But I find that when I work with people, I am able to draw out their essence in a way while they are doing this creative process, and I think you are also doing that.
Because they're not stuck just in their problem. They're doing something positive while you're, that's a good point, Iwana. And I also think another thing is that I found, it's funny, most of the people who come into my classes, they're around 40. And I thought, that's funny, why are they all like 40 and up? And what I realized is it's not until that point that maybe your kids have gotten a little bit older and, oh my goodness, Johnny went to nursery school, so I've got 3 free hours, and they start to look. And I think especially for women, that age is really a turning point because you've gotten a little bit of freedom. Before that, you're taking care of your husband, you're taking care of the kids, you're running the PTA, and all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute, what about me? And so they go and do a safe little thing at class, and as you say, everything starts bubbling up. And then they start wondering, well, what else could there be in my life? What else can I do? What else do I have to give? And I thought I was very unique in this because a long time ago I went to see a psychologist about it, and she said to me, she started laughing, and she said to me, I said, I think you know me. And she said, I know you very well. And I was like, really? I thought that was pretty amazing. I thought she was very smart. Well, I read tons of psychology books. I love it. And I realized that I thought it was unique. I was like an artist and I was had a special case, but it wasn't unique at all. And I think there's, when you've studied about people, you can help them because you realize there are those stages in life. The early married stage, the stage when you finally get some freedom, my stage when your kids have left, and it calls for transitions. And so I think one of the things that I found is that why I like to help people is I want to leave a legacy. I had a lot of pain around being shy and not exposing myself and playing it safe. And I don't want people to suffer that. I want to be able to help them skip that part, or at least skip it quickly and, help them, give them the tools to go on with it because I think, our lives are not very long. And I'm sure you see, even with Victor, that he's 4 years old now. But can you remember? I mean, did it seem like yesterday you brought him home from the hospital?
Yes.
And believe me, it's going to be the same thing when all of a sudden he's leaving to go to college or get married or whatever. And I look at these children of mine who are like, I have big boys that are 6'5", and I look and I think, that was my little baby. What happened? So I
Yeah.
think it's really important that somehow, for women to have that support during those transitions, where they're learning to how to do their next chapter the best way possible, to give everything that they have with it. And I myself had a woman who for 15 years really helped me through those periods, made a huge difference in my life. And as a matter of fact, she's in her 80s now, and I still talk to her because I'm really, really grateful I don't think I'd be where I am today if I hadn't had that help.
Yeah. Well, it's funny that you say you said something about being visible, and it's because we met through this video challenge, and I also feel like making videos is also touching all my visibility issues that I didn't really think that I had, but now it's really visible. Also, it implies a lot of love for yourself to want to create, and also to want to create videos.
And also to look at yourself on video.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean that's very confronting, and as I know some people don't even like to listen to themselves and to look at themselves. It's even bigger than that. So one of the things that I was doing before I was participating in this video challenge, because I had my own challenge in April, and I was
that
doing
you ran yourself. That you ran.
That I ran myself.
Yes.
On my website, and I was doing one video every day, sometimes two, about different things that I was presenting. But this is different because now I want to present everything about myself, while then it was more like I was giving something to my clients and to my fellow.
This is your time.
Yes, it was more like I'm doing something for them, and this is something that I do for myself. And before this, so before being on video, I was giving my clients mostly, or especially the very intensive coaching programs. I would advise them to look in the mirror every morning and say something loving to themselves, and see how confronting that is. And I think video is bringing the same kind of visibility issue up. So what do you...
Well, what's interesting to me, Iwana, what I found on this, during this challenge is, first of all, I'm a very people-oriented person, but I hate talking, giving a speech. Like talking like this with you, this is enjoyable to me. It's very natural. But if you said to me, Carmen, I want you to prepare exactly whatever, and let's talk about this and this, I would be like, I wouldn't be able to talk. And so what I realized, though, for myself in doing this challenge was, I realized we never look at ourselves. We get up in the morning, we wash our face, we brush our teeth, we put the makeup on quickly. If you're like me, you can do that in 2 minutes. and that's the end of it. And then I never want to look again. I don't want to look. Someone said to me once, you'll never, if you want to never feel old, never look in the mirror. So I'm like, okay, I'm with that program
So you
because
listened.
your head is always young. And so I was thinking, and when you talk about visibility, I think one of the things to me is I realize how little we are familiar. We're familiar with so many other people. We care for other people, but what do we know about ourselves? And I think that this has been a time for me also to be able to learn more things about myself, who I am, what do I look like, and that was amazing to me. Now, after almost 30 days, I mean, I can't tell you that I'm thrilled with taking a look at myself, but it's not as much of a shock as it was.
I love you.
Well, thank you, Iwana, but I mean, seriously. But I'm saying, even, did you have that feeling of when you looked at yourself, or you've been doing this video thing more than I have, but did you have that?
I had it in the beginning.
Yes.
And but for me, it's different because I did the mirror work. So
Okay.
I had this connection with my soul through my eyes.
Mm-hmm.
I felt it a few times in the mirror, and that's very, very, very confronting.
Awful.
But it's also like you really feel like the whole soul is coming into yourself. So this is something that I find amazing. But I'm thinking now to advise my clients to start making a video of themselves,
Mm-hmm.
just to start the same process. But I think that the mirror and being on video are very similar in that way. So yes, but I also want to come back a little bit to people who want to start a business, because you mentioned something about that, and I feel that if one wants to start a business, this is also very interesting to make for themselves, like videos that go deeper than what they want to say for their business, because before you know who you are, I don't think that you can
sell anything.
Business. Yeah, also. But also, if you don't know who you are, you don't know who you're putting into your business. And these go hand in hand, being visible and being in the business and loving yourself. I think they are all one big package.
Well, I agree with you, Ewan, and that's what I was saying before. I think that's why we have to bring all of ourselves. And as you say, you have to know yourself, because you really, for other people to trust you, and it's really today, there's so much competition. There's so many people out there that look on the outside like they have everything, and yet they really haven't done the work to be able to help somebody else. They don't have the experience. And so I think it's probably really important. I hadn't thought of it that much before, but how much you have worked on yourself. I've been invited into groups. Actually, the group that I went to, the spiritual guidance thing that I took, you had to write a 25-page assessment of yourself and your different journey. And I've had a lot of things in my life that I've confronted, like you. I mean, I've been single, I've been married, I've been rich, I've been poor. I mean, I've run the gamut. And so I've kind of been there. And one of the things that they said was you had to write this whole story. So, I was laboring over the story and, telling, bearing my soul. And when I finally got into the class, there were 25 people there. And this one woman that I met, she said to me, "I can't believe we got in." And I said, "You know what? We were probably the only 25 who applied." Because what I found out later was, and it really annoyed me, that I went there because I've done the work. I've been to the psychologist. I've, been through different things in my life, and I've really worked at trying to raise my own level. And I found there were so many people there who had never done it. And I saw the difference. I mean, I wasn't really interested. Not that I didn't have empathy. I had empathy for them. But I wanted to talk to someone that was going to make me stretch, make me grow, not someone who thought was in the beginning of where I was 10 years ago. I've been in all those places.
Yes, and also there is a difference if somebody didn't do the work and is not visible from inside out and is not in contact with their soul, there is a difference in the level at which you can penetrate into a discussion. And it's really funny because I live in Holland, in the Netherlands, and they have a saying here that says it all. They say, and it's also true in physical way, in a physical manner. They say a Dutch person will show you their living room, but never their bedroom. And it's really true. If you walk in the Netherlands anywhere, and especially in the villages, because now the towns are different. But if you walk in a village on the street, you can see everybody's living room is just curtains open. You can see them having dining at the table, and you never see the bedroom. And I believe that this is a cultural thing, that they never show that level behind the curtains of the bedroom. I believe it's but I see people who are working at themselves, that they also show the bedroom. And it's
well,
really,
don't you find that, Iwana, I have, in my life, and I think we all attract people or are attracted by people who are willing to show, because I don't want to be with people who are only giving part of themselves. So I think that, if I'm going to share things with you, you better share them with me, because I'm not, trying to entertain you with my stories. I want to have that person who's listening to me and has something to add to me.
Yeah.
So that's a good saying.
I believe that we should go on with this discussion at another time, because I see I think my friend who is taking care of my Victor has to go home, so because it's really
we better let him go home.
Yeah.
Well, Iwana, it's been really, really nice, and I want to thank you so much, because it's interesting. I find today, in today's world, and I feel very fortunate because most of my friends at my age are not into technology, and I felt, what, there's such an opportunity here, and if I stop, I really started about 7 years ago, but unfortunately I was starting from zero. But I think that, like meeting you and like meeting other people, I've met several people online, and I think, gosh, if I was living next door to you, I maybe never would have had that, that communication. So it's really been interesting, and I think, another thing about artists, I don't know if you found this, but sometimes artists, they kind of step behind, this is where I got my supplies, or this is where my frame is. Well, you know what? You're over in Holland. You're not going to affect my life in terms of that. You may add to my life, but you're not going to take the person who might be buying my painting.
No, so exactly.
But it opens up a whole new line of communication with people really interesting, and I've really loved getting to know you. So,
yes, me too. Thank you very much. And I think we're really having a lot in common, and I really, really enjoyed talking to you.
We'll keep up the conversation.
Yes, we will.
Who knows what could happen?
We'll go to part 2.
Okay.